Welcome into the Commanders Report. On today's show, Mel Kiper Jr. has updated his big board, and with that, an updated list of the top 10 round 1 draft targets for your Washington Commanders. We now know that the Commanders will be drafting 7th in the 2026 NFL Draft in the first round. So which players does Mel Kiper think that the Commanders should be targeting? That's what we're going to be talking about on today's show. But before we get into the content today, make sure you click that subscribe button because we are just getting started with our extensive draft coverage here on the Commanders Report this offseason. And if you guys love the NFL Draft and you love the Washington Commanders, this is going to be the channel for you because we provide you guys with in-depth prospect analysis like we're doing today. Also positional rankings, my own positional rankings at every position of need for the Washington Commanders this year. And then also pre-draft visits. We'll track all those, whether it's from the Senior Bowl coming up here in a couple weeks or, at the Combine, or whether that's, the official pre-draft visits. We'll make sure to let you guys know everybody the Commanders are targeting. Also, weekly 7-round mock drafts right here on the Commanders Report, and all that content, it's 100% free, guys. It doesn't cost you a dime. All you have to do is click that little subscribe button below this video, and you're all set. So if you haven't already, click that subscribe button. With that, let's kick off today's show here by talking about which positions the Washington Commanders could be looking for. This is the list that I've compiled of positions that they could potentially be looking at in the first round. Now, obviously, it's going to depend on who they make trades for, if they make any, who they bring in free agency. All this different stuff is going to determine, what positions the Commanders are legitimately considering in the first round. But right now, certainly lots of positions on the defense, but also wide receiver, tight end, running back are 3 positions in the skill positions there that I think could be targeted by the Commanders this year as well. But then Mel's positions of focus here are edge rusher, inside linebacker, tight end, safety, and running back. These are the 5 positions of the top 10 players that he has listed for the Washington Commanders in round 1 that we'll be revealing here in a second. And just so you guys know, the Commanders are drafting 7th in the 2026 NFL Draft. That's where they're slated to be. And I will also say that I would probably expect the Commanders to definitely consider a trade down in the first round. All right, I just think it makes a lot of sense. You don't have a lot of draft picks right now, only 6 picks. Like over half of those are on day 3. You only have 2 picks on the first 2 days of the draft. So to trade down and get a couple more day 2 picks, maybe get an additional first for a future season, depending on how far you trade down. I think that it's very possible that Adam Peters works the phone here during the spring so that they can still get a first-round player, but maybe add a couple more picks to be able to, round out this roster with more young talent that it desperately, desperately needs. So what say you guys? Let me know down there in the comment section. What position should be the number one priority for the Commanders in round 1 this year? Do you think they should go should they go edge rusher? Should they go safety? Should they go linebacker? What should be the priority for the Commanders in round 1? Let me know your take down there in the comment section. In just a second here, I'm going to tell you about our sponsor today at Prize Picks. While I tell you about our sponsor today, answer today's pinned question down there in the comments. And with that, let's have a word from our sponsor today at Prize Picks. And guys, the big game is almost here in Santa Clara, and there's no better way to cash in during America's biggest sporting event than with Prize Picks, where it always feels good to be right. And since the big game is right around the corner, that also means that it's your last chance to get into the football action before next season. So close out the year right now with Prize Picks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. With the new social feeds feature, you can share Prize Picks with your friends and copy lineups from winners with a single click. Copy lineups you like or use them as inspiration for your own picks. And the new feature from Prize Picks that I absolutely love is early payouts. If your player gets off to a hot start, you now have the option to cash out those winnings before the game even finishes. When it comes to conference championship weekend in professional football here, I'm going to take the more on passing yards for Drake May. Sorry, Jared Stidham, I'm taking the less on your passing yards, and I'm taking the more on passing yards for both Matthew Stafford and Sam Darnold, which I believe will be an NFC championship game for the ages here. So download the Prize Picks app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. So we'll start out Mel Kiper Jr.'s updated round 1 draft targets here with his number 22 overall prospect and linebacker from the University of Georgia, C.J. Allen. Now, I think Allen is probably more of a trade-down type of guy where the Commanders trade down, and then they end up getting a guy like this, maybe in the late teens or early 20s, depending on how far they trade back. But this is what Mel Kiper has to say about Mr. Allen. Allen is a 3-down linebacker at the next level because his read and react skills are excellent, and he can make plays in all 3 aspects of the defense. He has the physicality to take on blocks in the run game and the speed to chase down ball carriers once he disengages. He has the burst to blitz and get to the QB too. He can drop and defend in coverage, and I do agree with Mel Kiper Jr. that Allen is one of the more well-rounded linebackers in this class, and I don't know if he's going to go in round 1 because linebackers usually aren't seen at like an absolute value, but certainly Allen is a very good player and would be a nice addition to the Washington Commanders defense and would probably be a mainstay in this group if he ends up being the pick. But then moving all the way down here to number 15, a pretty decent jump here for Mel's number 9. Washington Commanders round 1 draft target, and it's Keldric Faulk, the defensive end out of Auburn, is what Kiper has to say about the Auburn Tiger. He says, if you could draw up the perfect 4-3 defensive end, by the way, the Commanders run a 4-3 defense, it would be Faulk. He's what I call the LTPer, someone who looks the part. He can win with outside and inside moves, and he moves blockers with his super powerful hands. I see good overall instincts on tape too. Faulk makes his presence felt against the run and the pass, and he is scheme versatile. I do think Faulk is kind of, maybe a little bit underwhelming as a pass rusher, but I think, he can certainly deliver in that regard, and he's got a really, really good run defender, guys. He fits what the Commanders like to do. Wouldn't shock me at all if the Commanders trade down and then Faulk ends up being the pick in round 1. But then Kenyon Sadiq, one of the more fun draft targets here on Kiper's list, he's their number 14 prospect right now there at ESPN. This is what Kiper has to say about the dynamic tight end from the Oregon Ducks. Sadiq is loaded with physical traits. He has the explosion to hurdle defenders in the open field. He has the vision and speed to cause conflicts after the catch, with almost half his 20-25 yardage coming after the ball was in his hands. And he's nearly impossible to match against because of his quickness and size. Sadiq was consistent this season, and he should be the first tight end off the board. I do agree with Mel Kiper Jr. This guy is definitely a dynamic tight end talent. If you want to replace Zach Ertz in this offense with somebody that can be Jaden Daniels' new safety blanket of the future, I think Sadiq makes a lot of sense for the Washington Commanders, probably in a trade-down scenario. Then Ahkeem Mesidor, the number 13 player on Mel's board here, defensive end out of Miami. Absolutely balled out in the national title game on Monday here, guys. This is what Mel has to say about Mesidor. The Canadian makes his presence felt against both the run and the pass, and he shows good bend, closing burst, and power. When his initial move is thwarted, Mesidor never stops battling. He also brings some versatility with the ability to shade inside to defensive tackle and get pressure on the interior. And the reason why Mel points out Mesidor's versatility is because he's 280 pounds as a defensive end, all right? And you guys know Dan Quinn, he likes those big boys at the defensive end spot. So Mesidor kind of perfectly fits what the Commanders could be looking at. Also, he's a bit of an older guy, but with that experience, might come a more NFL readiness. So the Commanders would certainly be looking for somebody to put on the opposite side of Dorrance Armstrong. I think Mesidor is somebody that could be ready to play right away. Then we get to the number 6 draft target in round 1 from Mel Kiper Jr. for your Washington Commanders. And Sonny Styles, the linebacker from Ohio State, the uber athletic linebacker Buckeye. This is what Mel Kiper Jr. has to say about the defender in the middle. He says, you can tell Styles is a former safety. He has outstanding speed, and his burst allows him to spy the quarterback. Watch for him to dominate at the combine and in pre-draft testing. Styles is also a dependable tackler and closes in a flash. He really took the next step this season, even as he adapted to a new system under defensive coordinator Matt Patricia. Now, when I look at a guy like Sonny Styles, man, he is absolutely a freak of nature. He's going to absolutely dominate the combine this year, and because of that, I think he's going to go very high. Another guy that could be a potential candidate for the Commanders to trade down and then draft in the middle portion of the first round. Now, coming up here, Mel Kiper Jr.'s top 5 round 1 draft targets, but before we get into Mel's top 5 here, make sure you guys click that thumbs up icon and like today's show if you're enjoying the program today. way. We give you guys in-depth Commanders content like this every single day. So if you watch our channel and you want to help us out, the easiest way to do that costs you absolutely nothing, is click that thumbs up icon. It tells the YouTube algorithm that people that are watching the show are enjoying it, that they should push this out to other Commanders fans like yourselves. So if you are enjoying today's show, I'd appreciate it if you click that thumbs up icon. All right, now we're into the top 5 of Mel Kiper Jr.'s round 1 draft targets for the Washington Commanders, and we get to Reuben Bain Jr., the number 7 overall player on his big board. He actually had the Commanders take Bain in his mock draft, his first mock draft that was released this week. And this is what Mel Kiper Jr. has to say about the edge rusher out of Miami. Bain is powerful and has really strong hands. He routinely gets the best of some very good offensive tackles, often with his dominant rip move, and he knows every trick in the book in getting home to the quarterback. Bain also shows speed and bend off the edge, and he takes good angles. Plus, he can hold the edge against the run and get off blocks to chase down ball carriers. His tape is just filled with disruption. But even with all those A-level traits, it's actually Bain's hustle that really stands out to me. He never takes a play off and fires at the ball on every play. His arms are shorter than most scouts prefer, but there's so much to like with this game. Opponents have to account for him in their game plans, and he can keep them guessing even then with his inside-outside versus flexibility. So this is another guy, guys, that can go inside or outside, and we know Dan Quinn likes guys that can move around the defensive line. I do think Bain is a good player. I compare him to like Brandon Graham, but is Brandon Graham worth the number 7 overall pick? I'm not too sure about that. If the Commanders can trade down and get Reuben Bain Jr., I think that'd be an awesome move by Adam Peters. However, if they stay put and take him at number 7, I would be skeptical of a missed opportunity there for the Washington Commanders. But then we get into the top 4 here, starting with Caleb Downs, the number 6 player on Mel Kiper Jr.'s big board, the safety out of Ohio State. And this is what Mel has to say about the star-studded safety from the Buckeyes. Downs, the brother of NFL wide receiver Josh Downs and the son of former NFL running back Gary Downs, is basically an extension of the defensive coordinator. But what really impressed me is how well he picked up Nick Saban's system as a 2023 freshman at Alabama before transferring. He diagnoses quickly thanks to excellent pre-snap instincts, and that allows him to play faster than his straight-line speed might suggest. Plus, Downs is solid in coverage, and he is a very reliable open field tackler. And for me, guys, you guys know I love Caleb Downs' game. He reminds me a little bit of Brian Branch when he was coming out of Alabama. They did play technically different positions when they were coming out, but I do think that, Downs is not going to be like the most physically imposing, guy at the combine or anything like that, kind of like Brian Branch. But, Branch, Cooper DeJean is also in this category of guys that are just really good football players that can play in the slot, that can play deep, great instincts, know where the quarterback wants to go with the ball before the quarterback really even knows it, honestly. And this is the type of guy that can be a complete game changer in the middle of your defense. And, middle of the field game changers, can completely change the dynamic of your defense. So I love Caleb Downs, would love that pick at number 7 for the Commanders. Then also David Bailey is next on the list here, the star-studded defensive end from Texas Tech. He's currently the number 5 prospect on Mel Kiper Jr.'s big board. So Mel has to say about the Red Raider edge. The transfer from Stanford, Bailey gets after the quarterback. He had 14.5 sacks over 3 seasons for the Cardinal, and he matched that total in 2025 alone after notably becoming more of a finisher this season. His 20.2% pressure rate was the best in the nation, despite actually being lower than it was in 2024 with a 22.2%, and in 2023 with 22.1. And plain simply, guys, David Bailey, I think, is the best pure pass rusher in this year's NFL draft class. He's a little bit undersized, so, if the Commanders are going to continue with this 4-down front that they've been running under Dan Quinn, Bailey would have a bit of a question mark next to him in terms of being able to hold up against the run. And I do think opposing offenses would attack him. I think he's more of a true 3-4 outside linebacker type. But he is certainly somebody that can get after quarterbacks. That is something that Adam Peters has said that he wants a true pass rusher out of this offseason. David Bailey would certainly provide that. Then we get to Arvell Reese, another Ohio State Buckeye here as the number 4 overall prospect on MEL'S big board, and a lot of people compare Arvell Reese's profile to Micah Parsons even. This is what Kiper has to say about the final Buckeye on our list today. This is a complete football player. Reese jumps off the Ohio State tape, playing the game like a veteran veteran. I see natural instincts at the linebacker position that allow him to make plays most guys just can't make, and he has the burst to get home when turned loose as a pass rusher. Reese has been a big riser in this class. And, when you turn on the film for Ohio State, when they just send Arvell Reese on a blitz, it's like game over, man. Like, this guy is so good getting after the pass rusher. And because of his length and because of his physical kind of setup, a lot of people think he's going to make the adjustment to outside linebacker edge in the National Football League. And, it wouldn't surprise me if somebody does that, and I think a lot of people, view him as an edge going into this class. But if he comes to Washington, man, we're going to see exactly what Dan Quinn did with Micah Parsons, moving him all around the formation, using him on disguises and at the line of scrimmage and all these different things. And, he's going to be a big chess piece for the Washington Commanders if he can somehow fall to number 7. I kind of doubt he falls to us at number 7, so I don't think we'll even have the chance. But certainly if we do have the chance, I would run that card up for Arvell Reese. Then we get to the final and top draft target from Mel Kiper Jr. in the first round for the Washington Commanders, which is his number 2 overall prospect in this class, Jeremiah Love, the running back out of Notre Dame. This is what Kiper has to say about the star-studded fighting Irish running back. He says, Love reminds me a lot of Reggie Bush. The 20-year-old has vision and burst between the tackles and to the outside, and he can break tackles with ease, 60 force missed tackles on the season. Once he gets into space, he can take it to the house with his breakaway speed too. But Love isn't only an outstanding runner, he also is a high-impact pass catcher. An NFL team would be able to flank him out wide and create a whole other dimension of the offense. Now, the thing with Love is that he's a running back, obviously, and, he's an awesome player. And you combine Jeremiah Love with Jaden Daniels, that could be a really great dynamic duo. But personally, I think with the limited draft capital that the Commanders have and with all the needs that they have, I think running back is probably lower on the list of needs that they need to address this offseason, particularly in the first round of the draft. You can find good running backs on day 3 if you need to, right? We found one last year in Bill Krosky-Merritt. So I don't think that running back should be at the top of the list of priorities, for this team. And, as much as I love Jeremiah Love as a Notre Dame fan myself, I don't think he's the right fit in the first round for the Washington Commanders. So who's your guy? Let me know down there in the comment section. Who do you want to be the first round pick for your Washington Commanders this year? Do you want Arvell Reese? Do you want Caleb Downs? Do you want to trade down and then get Reuben Bain Jr. or something of that kind? Let me know your strategy down there in the comment section. And that'll be it for today's edition of the Commanders Report by Chat Sports. Again, if you guys want extensive Commanders draft content all throughout the 2026 offseason, this is going to be the place for you. Click that subscribe button if you haven't already.